Oh boy, things are getting a little bit heated between the United States and Russia. As the missiles are already flying, a lot of people are waiting for the Russian retaliation as we just got more insight into what is happening behind the scenes with Donald Trump, who has been very oddly silent about this entire major escalation of the war that clearly now is taking into a new phase of warfare that I will argue the United States and NATO are at a big disadvantage with. And it's not just me saying that, it's also the mainstream media that are echoing our sentiments that we were telling you about many years ago. Again, lots to talk about here, specifically when it comes to all of our predictions, which essentially have come true, the bigger escalations at play here, what's going on, the latest kind of retaliatory type of behavior from the Russians, and how this conflict will be escalating from here. If you appreciate our 21 years of calling a lot of this nonsense out and describing to you the geopolitical situations that are unfolding right now with almost scary type of accuracy, subscribe. Click the notification button because clearly, if you've been watching our channel for a very long time, we've been on top of this story for a while. This is now, we have this article from the Daily Mail talking about Putin's revenge, as there are reports of 6 people losing their lives, including 1 baby, from a Russian drone that now, of course, attacked a major Ukrainian city. Now, Zelensky's Operation Spiderweb was a big humiliation for the Russians, for Vladimir Putin. It was an incredibly successful PR attack that took out, and the Russians are trying to contest this, but took out a major part of their nuclear aircraft arsenal that were left on public display because of a nuclear armed treaty. That treaty out the window now, as well as any hopes for de-escalations and peace deals, as Vladimir Putin yesterday announced he does not negotiate with terrorists, and he deemed all of Ukraine a terrorist nation state, as he described how innocent civilians were caught up in the sabotage attacks that happened within Russia. As of course, these types of drone, aircraft, truck type of sabotage attacks on his nuclear arsenal were also met with, of course, sabotage attacks on a major railroad and bridge that also took the life of innocent Russians. Therefore, he said this is an act of terrorism, as of course there was also an action trying to blow up the Crimea bridge that was not successful with an underwater drone. Something that, of course, took months and months of planning that the United States and the CIA were probably very heavily involved in, if not orchestrating this entire matter themselves here. As we have pro-Ukrainian accounts talking about how the government building of Kherson, that was previously damaged before from Russian strikes, was just now damaged even more. Now, is this the retaliation that we all have been waiting for? Probably not. Let's be honest with ourselves, as a lot of people are expecting more retaliation, as a lot of people are expecting Putin to take off the gloves and get rid of a lot of the restrictions that he has placed on his Russian military. And there has been some restrictions. A lot of the stuff that you see on the kind of corporate media is just absolutely not true. He's still calling this a special military operations, and the military isn't able to fully conduct themselves like they wish. And there's a lot of pushback now against Putin, as the general public is saying, yeah, in Russia, obviously, because of Russian state propaganda, the Russians are predominantly, hearing news and information from their own side. The Ukrainians are hearing news and information from their side. A lot of it is, of course, biased. A lot of course, of this is centered around war propaganda, which is very thick and heavy during these key crucial times and moments here, which we could only expect to escalate that much further. As of course, we're getting more reports of Russian strikes on the Ukrainian city of Kharkov, and a lot of pro-Russian accounts on social media are describing how the Russian advance is continuing in the Donbass region, taking a lot of the small villages and towns in a very calculated way. See, the corporate media likes to tell you the Russians and their meat wave attacks. Listen, the Russians lost a lot of people here. But it's not because of meat wave attacks. It's because of drones. We're going to be talking about drones here in a little bit, because the drone conversation, I think, has changed the landscape of modern warfare in ways that we still even haven't seen the worst of. We're going to see worse. We're going to see more awful stuff. We're going to see more crazy sabotage attacks. As Donald Trump hinted before this kind of Ukrainian sabotage attack with their truck drone infrastructure that they've been building and procuring and having at their disposal for 18 months now, as that operation was ongoing for that long. This is just the beginning of this new form of technocratic AI warfare that is absolutely obliterating infantry on the front line. And it's not just the Russians that are having significant heavy losses. It's also the Ukrainians. The Russians, as we have detailed to you, have this specific type of strategy. They send in hardware with infantry. Then they have, of course, the surveillance drones. Then, of course, they have the drones that drop the bombs. Then the infantry are coming. The Ukrainians kind of bunker down. When they do, that's when the Russians just send in the glide bombers. The glide bombers take out the bunkers, take out any of the fortified positions from the Ukrainians, and then the Russian infantry just kind of come in, take out the rest, or take them prisoner. And then that's their type of warfare that has been successful in the Donbass region for them to take some territory. Now, with these strikes and this one kind of government building being hit here, again, does it really amount to anything? Well, we got some interesting insight about Donald Trump here, and it's the same insight that I've been kind of saying from the very beginning, because there's been a lot of back and forth here, but it's almost becoming more clear now that Donald Trump knew and gave the go-ahead to these latest attacks. We'll tell you why in a little bit, and how this conflict will devolve and just become crazier and crazier. But before we do, we wanted to tell you about wearechange.shop. One of the best shops out there, as of course a lot of the products that we have here. No, sorry, all the products I take, I test, I use on my own personal self. I want to make sure that our standards are up to yours, and we have a lot of great products. We have eye serum, we have magnesium mist, we have creatine, we have magnesium glycinate, we have essential fatty, we have chill pill, we have 2 teas that make sure that there's no microplastics in them. We also bundle up some of our products. And of course, we have our, I think this is I like the creatine so much, but it's hard to pick a favorite one because there's so much personal stories with every product. But this one took me 2 years to find the right one. And I was testing all of them on the market. This one's made in the United States, produced in the United States, and it's 1,000 milligram full spectrum hemp extract. This right here calms a lot of people down. That's why we called it Take Calm. And it's some really great stuff. A lot of people come and go. I don't want to share a lot of stuff about their personal journeys, but a lot of people that I know, especially now in this new kind of digital day and age where everyone's kind of inundated with just like blah, 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 all the crazy information. A lot of people, nervous systems are just fried. And I keep telling people, hey, make sure you get good sleep. Make sure you meditate. Make sure you relax. If you're dealing with things like panic attacks, it's usually a diet and exercise related issue. Sometimes it's mental related to your gut though. But in the meantime, if you're still dealing with those problems, one of the things that helped me when I was dealing with those problems was CBD. And I looked out for the best products out there. There's a lot of stuff mixed in with fillers and artificial flavors and just seed oils even. And I'm like, I don't want to be taking that stuff. I want to be taking the best natural stuff out there. And that's why I found this product. It's MCT oil as well as hemp extract. And I love this stuff. It helps me out. When I was dealing with an unhealthy lifestyle, no good sleep, and just stress in my life tremendously, it was just like, oh, panic attack. Oh, what the hell's going on? It's like you're frozen. It's weird. It's like you're going through a heart attack, and then but you're not. This stuff during the midst of it helped me. It might help you. I don't know. Everybody's different. But I had this in my studio. I had this in my bedroom. I had this in my car, and then we decided to, of course, sell it after 2 years of hard work, making sure that this is going to be some legitimate stuff. You don't want to be getting the gas station stuff. The gas station stuff is cheaper. It's cheaper for a reason. This is high quality stuff. A lot of other people who have this product sell it for about $120. We sell it for $64 because we want to make it. It's expensive. It's an expensive product. Let's be honest with ourselves. It costs us a lot of money to produce and to procure this, but it's one of the best products out there in my opinion. and it helped me. It might help you. I like it. A lot of our guests here like it as well. Now, let's continue on with this conversation here as we have this article from Axios that gave us a little bit more of a scoop, a little bit more insight, as they are reporting that Trump admired Ukraine's badass attack, but, quote, worries what is next. President Donald Trump thought Ukraine's surprise drone attack over the weekend was strong and badass, sources who discussed it with him tell Axios. But he's also concerned it might make his ceasefire mission even harder. Yeah, it was on the eve of peace negotiations in Istanbul. It's like, hey, we're going to negotiate in good faith, and then, boom, we violate a nuclear treaty. That, of course, now is defunct. The nuclear treaty made it so the Russian nuclear arsenal had to be on display for satellites to see. They're not going to do that anymore. That treaty is done, and the Russians are probably not going to be abiding by that. That's why the airplanes, people are like, why did Russia just leave their airplanes like that? This is a Pearl Harbor. And then there's like all these conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. They wanted it to happen. There's no damage at all. Well, whatever you might believe, whatever you might say, but it was a huge PR victory for the Ukrainians. Let's just be honest with ourselves. And you gotta, not be mirrored in a lot of the kind of propaganda out there. It's hard because there's so much propaganda, so much disinformation. We do our best here. We goof up sometimes too. No one's perfect, but I think when it comes to this matter, I try to have an honest, real perspective here that is somewhere in the middle. And I try to look and examine both propaganda. But let's be honest, this was a very sophisticated, probably intel agency controlled strike that was extremely impressive. Now, Donald Trump saying that this was badass, a second source even confirming that, confirms that the Ukrainians probably did notify Donald Trump, and Donald Trump gave the go-ahead. Now, why would Donald Trump give the go-ahead? Well, negotiations have been not going well. And this could be an attempt to put maximum pressure on Putin. We saw Donald Trump put maximum pressure on Zelensky. Zelensky eventually caved, signed the raw minerals deal. Zelensky was the first one that sabotaged the first ceasefire by going after Russian infrastructure when Russia said, okay, the first deal of the ceasefire is not to attack infrastructure, and we won't do that, you won't do that. And then the Ukrainians did that automatically. Then the Russians sabotaged it, and the Russians were like, oh yeah, we'll negotiate. Yeah, we'll go to Turkey. And then as soon as Zelensky landed in Turkey, Putin was like, I'm canceling my meeting. I'm not going to Turkey, which sucks because I was really hoping that there would be a face-to-face between the two, which could potentially de-escalate the scenario and situation. Now, the conversations and negotiations weren't going nowhere. First, Zelensky sabotaged it, then Putin sabotaged it. Putin's now the guy playing hardball. Putin's the one arguing, saying, no, why? I'm not doing a 30-day ceasefire because the fight is just going to continue afterwards, and the Ukrainians are going to regroup, rearm, reman, since they're not able to have as many rotations on the front lines as the Russians. The Russians have about 4 rotations to the front line and back. The Ukrainians have like 1 and 2 in most instances, where it's like, okay, you're on the front line and then you're not. In Russia, you're like, oh, you're on the front line. Oh, you're in the second line. You're the third line. You're on the fourth line. Oh, you get some time. Okay, now you come back. Fourth line, third line, second line, first line. Boom. It's this kind of like rotation. In Ukraine, it's like a lot of the people there overworked, not many rotations, and it's just brutal conflict. And this is why they are having such a big issue when it comes to recruitment. Now, Donald Trump could be like, okay, now Putin doesn't want to negotiate with me. Let's put maximum pressure. And then Donald Trump tweeted, I'm preventing some really bad stuff to happening to you, Russia and Putin. He said that on Truth Social. And then we see this attack, which has all the hallmarkers of the CIA, intelligentsia, a part of it, as well as U.S. spy tech and satellite tech that probably gave the coordinates and information to the Ukrainians in order to carry out this attack. Putin just had a phone call with Trump, and I think Putin realizes, yeah, the United States gave the go-ahead in order to bring us closer to the negotiations table, in order to have us kind of make a deal here. The Russians are negotiating very hard here. The Ukrainians are negotiating very hard here. And this truly is a scenario that, again, the White House originally was like, I didn't know about this. I had no idea. Why? Because the escalations here are so serious. And the United States were probably involved here. And the Ukrainians came out and said, yeah, we told Trump. And let's be honest, they probably did. And Trump probably gave the go-ahead. Let's just be real. That's the more likely scenario. Now, do we know that for a fact? No, we do not. But it's clear that this is a major escalation that destroys the peace talks. But Donald Trump isn't speaking out against Zelensky here. He isn't speaking out against the Ukrainians, which he has before, which means there's probably some other things happening behind the scenes here. And my inkling here is that Donald Trump kind of gave the go-ahead. Trump said Wednesday that Putin had told him very strongly that he'd be hitting back. It was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace, Trump said on the call. Now, how will Putin be hitting back? We did that on the previous video, and I think it's worth watching that previous video in order to understand the ramifications, the tech, and the type of military warfare that the Russians are capable of. That is far more sophisticated than we even know, especially when it comes to intercontinental ballistic missile systems and types of military hardware that is very scary. One Trump advisor said, from an international perspective, you've got Chihuahua inflicting some real damage on a much bigger dog. Chihuahua, sorry. You got a Chihuahua inflicting some damage on some real dog. Yeah, let's be honest with ourselves. As the Ukrainians don't have the manpower, they don't have the equipment, but they're able to launch sabotage type of style attacks here. The United States, listen, it's preparing for war. Let's just be honest with ourselves here. And these latest escalations are highlighting that. And whether it's China or Russia, it's pretty clear. We are headed, as we had this statement from our defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, describing the scenario that we're all in.
Clear any attempt by Communist China to conquer Taiwan by force would result in devastating consequences for the Indo-Pacific and the world. There's no reason to sugarcoat it. The threat China poses is real, and it could be imminent. We hope not.
Now, China's playing a very big role in a lot of this. China is partnering up closer and closer to Russia. There are Chinese mercenaries now fighting on the Russian side. North Korean soldiers fighting on the Russian front side. As the United States keeps saying, hey, like it or not, NATO, you got to hit your 5% defense spending targets. And the United States just announced, yeah, NATO's actually doing that. And it's mainly pressure from the United States saying, hey, we're not going to finance your defense so you could have socialism for the migrant populations replacing your local populations. We're not going to do that anymore. Say what you may about that, but it still is the United States telling Europe, arm up. You're going to be potentially on your own here, but arm up because we need more of a, quote, deterrent in the region. And that's the type of mindset here. Now, as the New York Times writes, the drones have transformed warfare. And they write, NATO might be vulnerable, as they're describing how assaults in Russia and Ukraine have shown majority military powers that they are unprepared for evolving forms of warfare and need to adapt. Yep, 100%. Well, Eric Schmidt's talking about stop building tanks, start building drones. He's right about that. The Chinese have been building a crap ton of drones. Now, the Russians have shown themselves in this conflict to have a very beefy, very effective military-industrial complex that's a lot more efficient and cost-effective than the American military-industrial complex. I mean, even Donald Trump talked about, hey, I want these drones that the Iranians are building that they're using with Russia against the Ukrainians. I want them. They cost about $30,000 to build. I want those drones. The military-industrial complex came back to Donald Trump and said, best we could do is like $20 million. What? $20 million? Why are we spending $20 million? And again, this is my frustrations with also George and Elon Musk never really going to the Pentagon and clearing up all that bloat, clearing out all of that wasteful, incredible, huge amounts of spending that clearly take place. There are a lot of wasteful spending, an incredible amount of wasteful spending. And now we're told, yeah, they build their drones that are very sophisticated, that are very effective, $20,000. $20 million here, maybe 30, depending on inflation, because we keep spending more money than we have, as a lot of our money goes to defense, and a lot of it just goes to a black hole, and they just secretly miss trillions of dollars. But we have this article here from Euronews.com talking about how Russia is developing multiple more ammunition than NATO. And this is from the NATO secretary himself, Mark Rutte. And it's true. It's cheaper, faster. Is it more effective? I think the effectiveness is a little bit less than the NATO one. But when it comes to this type of warfare, when it comes to everything that's unfolding right now, It's just who has the most amount of ammunition. And the Russians are building up huge stockpiles of ammunition. And the United States is telling everyone to stockpile. There's, word being given, prepare for war. And that's what the Germans, the French, the British, the Polish, all are preparing for. And that right there is crazy. As the Economic Times of India, right? That World War III looms. Global leaders given 2 weeks as the clock ticked towards catastrophe. Yep. That's not good. Peace probability all-time low. Putin declared, I'm not negotiating with terrorists anymore. They did one of the biggest prisoner swaps ever. And they're like, okay, that's it. One and done. We have entered a new critical stage of this conflict. And this critical stage of conflict will only devolve from here. Expect some more major fireworks from the Ruskies. It's not good. It's not good for the people of Russia. It's not good for the people of Ukraine. Slavic lives matter. And without a doubt, there definitely isn't really a good scenario where this kind of goes to, sadly. What do you think is going to happen from now? Let me know down in the comment section below. We appreciate all of you guys. Take some calm and relax, because you're going to need it with how crazy and wild the situation is. Let's pray for peace. Let's pray for the end of this conflict. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more, all here on youtube.com/wearechange.